So glad that you could join us today, because Aaron, another interview. Why? For purposes of you, we're going to get into stuff like humor and what it means to be, dealing with a large family. How do we apply that? We're going to just rock and roll this thing and hope you enjoy it. So stick around. Your voice. With me, your host. I'm going to help you use your God-given voice. I'm going to equip you for the good works of Jesus, hitting up hot biblical topics, problem areas in the body of Christ, in the charismatic, in other areas of the body of Christ, in an attempt to help bring clarification, purity, consecration in love and patience as the Bible commands. I'm going to have special guests on that are going to equip you and edify you through their stories that give God the glory, where you'll get different viewpoints in different areas because we're all one body and we all have a piece of the puzzle to share with one another. So I look forward to you watching, listening, and interacting. All right, before we get started, let me just ask you a couple things. Are you subscribed to the YouTube channel? If not, why not? What are you waiting for? We got great content here, organized for you, easy to find, playlists and all that. So hit that subscribe button, hit that thumbs up button on this video. And hey, if this show is a blessing to you, if these shows really help you out, would you consider giving? 3 ways you can give down in the description. Check them out. We appreciate any amount. All right, with that, I'm going to bring on my guest. All right, well, welcome to the show, Elaine.
Hi. Yeah, it's good to have you. It's so good to be here, David. Sorry, I'm the podcast. I'm usually asking the question, so I just about said I was glad you were on the show.
That's all right. That's all right. That's all right. That's all right. So I guess before we get started, I would like to, give my guests a chance to tell people about themselves. So why don't you do that? Tell people about them, yourself, tell people about your ministry and all that.
Yeah, thank you so much. So I have 6 kids, and I've been married for it'll be 25 years in May. So guess I should say we have 6 kids, and I help moms to overcome the mom guilt and the overwhelm, and just try to release the pressure a little bit and bring the stress off, so that they can start to feel like they're winning. Realize how much they're accomplishing, and hopefully find some balance too.
Yeah,
that's what I do.
Wonderful, wonderful. So 6 kids, huh?
Mm-hmm.
I bet you learned a whole lot about motherhood and right and wrongs, and so
I think the biggest things I've learned is that always expect the unexpected.
Fair enough.
So you have something planned and typically it doesn't go the way you think it will. Oh my gosh, I have so many examples. In fact, it's so funny that you're in Corpus Christi, because that's actually the first place that we took our kids to see the ocean for the first time. And first of all, my teenager decided to hate the trip before we even got there. So
typical teenager.
Yeah, actually 2 teenagers, my 2 teenagers, daughters at the time. So they complained the entire time until the very last day. And the very last day, for some reason, they woke up and realized, oh, this is a great place to take pictures. And then they didn't want to leave. So, of course, that's the way it went down. And then, as soon as we got in the water when we were on that trip, one of the kids got stung by a jellyfish. Mm-hmm. And of course, there was sand and everything, and we lost the s'mores to unexpectedly. All the s'mores ingredients, and just a million things that could go wrong went wrong. So that's just like life, right? And you sort of kind of learn to roll with it a little bit better after you've had 6.
True. I would imagine so. I mean, we've got 3 small ones at home and 2 older ones, and yeah, it's a wild ride. It's a wild ride.
So
Yeah. Murphy's law in effect, right? I mean, if
Exactly.
something can go wrong, it will go wrong.
Exactly.
So, so what's the best advice you can give moms out there or whoever you want to speak to about this to deal with stuff like that? Because I know that it'll be like, hey man, you just feel like pulling your hair out or whatever, because you're like, can anything go right? Right? I'm sure
Oh,
all
yeah.
parents out there listening can be like, yeah, I've had those days. In
Oh,
fact, I
for
might have
sure.
had a whole week of that or more. So what do you say to people about that?
Well, a few things. I would say, like, if you're just really over it in the moment, I mean, the best thing to do is to walk away for a little bit if you can. With little kids, it's harder because sometimes you can't, because they're just little. And so you kind of just as a physical security thing can't. And that's when it's really helpful if you can kind of tag team, even whether it's your husband and if you're the husband, the wife, and maybe a friend or a grandparent or a neighbor, or anyone. And I would say in that case, especially, like, don't be afraid to tell people that you need a little bit of help. Because I feel like, sometimes we think if we ask for help, then that shows that we're incompetent. But that's not right? Like,
Right.
everybody needs help sometimes. And I actually think if we think about it differently, if we think about it that our struggles actually bring us together, that's what actually makes us connect. I think that will help you to be able to reach out a little bit more. Because when you think about, like, let's say, your neighbor comes over and she's like, I'm so sorry. I know we don't know each other that well, or we don't know each other on that level, but I really just need some help today. I mean, would you help her? Of
Right,
course
right,
you'd,
right.
yeah, of course you'd help her, right? So definitely with little kids, I'd say that. With older kids, if you're just like, you're done, just get out of there for a little while. I find that personally, like, a car is a really great timeout place for adults. And they can't follow you. So
Right. I've actually seen
sometimes,
that. Yeah.
yeah, sometimes you just need that. If you go, like, to my Instagram, it's called Imagine Mom, or like on Facebook or anywhere. You'll hear me sometimes talking from my car or like videoing from my car, right? Because, like, you just kind of have to get away.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'd say that for sure. And then, besides just the really practical, what do you do when you're kind of just totally burnt out? But on the when you have a little time to think through it, I think also, like, remembering that you actually are doing some really awesome things. I mean, that trip that we took to Corpus Christi didn't go like I planned at all, but I took them. We all got to see the ocean. They got to see the ocean for the first time. We had some crazy things happen. As soon as we got there, we figured out where the showers were. Of course, we had to because of the sand, right?
Right.
The showers are like your lifeline. And I had just gotten into the shower, and I don't know, I didn't know what it was. All I knew was that it was huge and it moved really fast. And so I was moving super fast, and I got out of that shower stall as quick as I could. And I don't think I actually got the towel on me before I darted out of the shower stall, but it turned out it was a crab. And
Ah.
being an old Midwest girl, I didn't realize there were crabs in the shower. So, yeah, I got out of there fast, and I was like, "Nope, not taking the shower with the crab." My husband was like, "Oh, I'll take a shower with the crab," and I was like, "You go right ahead."
uh,
We figured out that crab lived in the shower, and you had to kind of, watch every day and check the shower stalls to see where he was at that time.
wow. That crab had it good. That crab was
Yeah,
living
yeah, for
large.
real. So, that happened. It was funny. Everybody got a good laugh. We had some fun times around the campfire. So my point being that sometimes you just have to focus on the positive, right?
Right.
Yeah. You
What
just got
about,
to remind yourself.
yeah, what about all this problem? I think, I don't know. I think sometimes parents and in general have this idea that we're supposed to have it all down right, right? We got all the solutions, right? We got easy answers.
Mhm.
If I do this with my kid, this is going to be the result, right?
Yeah.
we can all be honest that majority of the time it doesn't work that way. So how I think how would you say that failing to realize that problems are normal would tie into mom guilt or parent guilt or something?
Absolutely. Like one of my favorite quotes is, before I had kids, I was going to run such a tight ship. Now that I have kids, the ship is on fire. I mean, you definitely have to. Let's just put it this way: you'll be a lot happier person if you accept the fact that you don't have all the answers. And
Yeah,
I mean, when did we ever have all the answers? I mean, when you started your first job, you didn't know what you were doing, right?
right,
When you went to school or college, you didn't know what you were doing. It took a little while. And, at least those places, maybe you had a little bit of training or something, right?
right.
But with parenting, it's sort of like it's feet in the fire. I remember going home with my first baby, like from the hospital.
Mm,
And you think like the doctor has to have like 12 years of school and, all these apprenticeships and watching other doctors and trying
mm,
out different kinds of doctoring and all these things. But they just hand you this baby and they expect you to take it home and know what to do.
right.
And I had no idea what to do. I was like, I'm glad you trust me because I don't trust me. But I guess it worked out because we ended up having 5 more.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, like what is it? What to expect when you're expecting? You got those books and websites out there and things like that, and you're like, oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Now, sure, yeah, and then you get in it, right? And then you
Yeah.
could, I mean, of course, probably say you're talking about college age people or whatever, but
Mhm.
at that age, don't we think we know it all though? Like we
Oh,
think
for
we got all
sure.
the answers. We think we know it all at that time, and
But it isn't parenting like the great equalizer,
yeah,
you know?
absolutely.
Especially if you have boys. Now, if you're a parent of girls, that might not be the case. Always suspect for me if I get advice from a parent who only has a couple of very well-behaved girls.
Boys.
But boys or a real strong-willed girl, that'll rock your world.
Yeah. I know about that, and I kind of feel sorry for our daughter because she's surrounded by brothers.
Oh, wow.
And I know I know what that's like. The difference between a girly and boys who just have bottomless energies that I wish I could siphon off, but I can't do that.
Oh, yeah.
Not scientifically. So what? So you have like 6 kids, right?
Mhm.
Because I'm sure that people who maybe not know about parenting or new parents are like, oh yeah, if I do this, like I
Oh,
said,
yeah.
this is going to happen, and yet we get no matter how many kids you have, each one is completely different than the other one,
Mm.
right?
Mhm. Yeah.
So how do people handle that? How do moms handle that?
Yeah, I think that is such a great question because it's so true. It's like you think, okay, I've got this down, right, with one, and then God throws you another one, and you're like, "Oh shoot, this is not the same, and now I don't know what to do," you know? And I obviously, now it's nice because we do have the internet, so you can get, in a Facebook group or Clubhouse or, ask questions, which is really helpful. But I do always kind of defer to, I really think some of the best advice comes from other
Mm,
moms or maybe moms that are a little bit ahead of you. I would ask more than one person because everybody has an opinion.
right,
And make sure, you're following the people that are full of grace, not the people that think you have to do it a certain way because
right.
I feel like you should always be suspect of that, you know.
Mm,
They either are very proud of themselves or they just haven't had enough life experience.
right. That's true. That's true.
But like
Well,
if you've had 5, at some point you just realize the way they see the world, the way they relate to God, that was a big thing that I had to accept is that they don't relate to God the same as I do.
mm,
And it's kind of amazing like how God works differently. Just to give you an example, we have a son right now who's 14. And so in our family, when the kids are freshmen in high school, they can get a phone. And so this is the first year that he's had a phone. And so, of course, the first thing he wants to get on, right, is TikTok.
Ah.
And, every parent's sort of nightmare.
Oh.
And, amazingly, I would say that he was, growing up in like a Christian home, they know about Jesus, but like you always wonder like what's their kind of feeling on it, right? Like, do they really have a relationship with God? And I mean, I can't say for sure, but I definitely think that he seemed like a little like kind of less interested, when he was
Mm.
younger. But getting on TikTok, he actually started getting on some of these videos and debating people about the Bible. And it caused him to wanna read it and wanna study it and start asking questions of me and my husband and just really paying more attention, to the religion class that he has there in, like, a small Lutheran school and, paying attention at church, just all that. And, like, I would have never in my wildest dreams would have thought that would have happened, right?
Right, right.
But, like, God doesn't work in the same way with everyone, and he certainly doesn't work in the same way when you've got all these different personalities of children.
Right. So yeah, so how does Jesus play into all this then? Like in your house, so this volatile sometimes dynamic, right? 6 different kids,
Mhm.
different personalities, and you just highlighted different ways of relating to God and stuff like that. And so how does Jesus in your house? What does that look like?
Yeah, I think that is a really cool question just because, our house isn't perfect, right? I mean, we've had all kinds of issues. I feel like I don't know about your kids, but with my
Mm-hmm.
kids, they got me either coming or going. Like, it was either really hard as toddlers or babies, and then they were, like, pretty easy as teenagers,
Mm-hmm.
or you got the bull by the horns because they were, like, easy as toddlers and babies, but then when they got to be teenagers, it was like, "What the heck just happened?" And you're having to deal with that. So, we've had plenty of, terrible holidays, and I could just tell you so many stories. Things fall apart, don't go how you expected. Uh, People are cranky. There's some kind of fight, right? Like, it's not perfect. But yet, I do think that my husband and I have always, like, I think that Jesus has always been like first in our lives and in a very imperfect way, right? Because we know we're sinners and we know we need grace. And so I think that we've just tried to really be that and just live it in that way. So, when those things come up, we deal with them the best we can, and we always go back to Christ. And to be honest, I mean, I've had some older. So I actually have a 22-year-old now, so I have
Okay.
some older kids. My youngest is 10, and so going through this process, I remember a good mentor of mine told me years ago. She said, "When your kids get older and they go to counseling, you know that you've done a good job as a parent." And it's good because you're not perfect, right? As a parent, your intentions are great, but you're just a sinner and you make mistakes. And also sometimes your intentions that are good aren't
Right.
always perceived that way by your kids, even if you thought it was the right thing to do. They just took it the wrong way because of their personality or whatever, right? And so that's been good. I mean, I guess what I'm trying to say in that is like, but even in that, like, I've been able to talk that through with my older kids
Mhm.
or even my younger kids, things that come up. And we talk about it in a way that reflects Christ. And we talk about it in that exact same wording, like,
Right.
what? I'm sorry I did that. I'm sorry you took it that way. I want you to know that I'm a sinner too. And I don't do everything perfectly. And I can't, I can ask you for forgiveness, but I can't heal you. Like, only God can do that. And that has between you and God. Like, you have to forgive me or whoever you're dealing with, or whatever's going on in your life. And I think that's a big part. And then in addition to that, of course, we've read the Bible to them, and we've read some other books to them. Like right now, I'm actually reading to my 14-year-old and my 8-year-old a book called what's it called? I can't think of it. It's on the tip of my tongue. I want to say The Logic Detective, but that's not right. The Fallacy Detective. And it's a really funny book about like recognizing arguments.
Okay.
And so like we read a chapter of the Bible, and then we'll read a chapter of that. And it's just been really fun, and it's very interactive and short. But it's helping them like see, like when they see something that someone says or that they say or on the media or in politics or whatever, they're starting to recognize some of those, arguments that might not be correct.
Right.
And so we just read kind of different things like that, it's not always about logic. Sometimes we'll read like a book about a missionary, or something like that. Or just Harry Potter, right? Whatever. But I mean, like, as far as like biblical kind of things, that's one of the ways that we do it. And then, we go to church and we listen to some Christian music. We just went to see Toby Mac in concert. So that was really fun. But we also listen to secular music, and sometimes we talk about it, like,
Okay.
we don't want to like keep them from listening to that kind of thing, but we want to just keep the conversation open.
Right. I was going to ask you, but you already highlighted about, what happens when you're wrong? What do you do to your kids? I love how you highlighted that you come before them, say, hey, I'm sorry I said this wrong. I did that wrong, whatever it is. I believe that plays a humongous role in raising healthy children, that they can see that, hey, mom or dad, they're not perfect. They recognize when they mess up. They come to me and ask me for forgiveness. I believe that plays a huge part because, my dad never once said he was sorry for anything, ever.
Yeah.
Never heard him apologize for anything he did wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And so, that played a negative in my life, though. Now, I apologize to my kids and anybody else I realize that I'm wrong to, but I like that because that just brings such healing. When something happens, when we as parents step out of line. I didn't say if. I said when we parents step out of line.
Yeah.
We have those days where, hey, like we talked about earlier, where you just want to pull your hair out and you're down to that short fuse, whatever it is, and instead of walking away, right, or giving yourself a timeout or something like that, right?
Like you could have done, right? Like, yeah.
Right. We explode in a very wrong way. And then what do we do afterwards, right? How have your kids received that type of stuff where, you come and say, hey, I'm sorry. How have they received it?
Like any human being, sometimes they receive it and sometimes they don't.
Right. Okay. Fair enough. Yeah.
Or they might need to take a while, right? They have to take some time to receive it. I do think there's like this thing a little bit about sometimes kids don't really realize you're not perfect, or that they hold you to this really high standard because you're the parent. Maybe it takes a little while for them, like when they become parents or they get a little older, they start to realize, oh, I'm an adult now too, and I'm not perfect. You know what I mean? And so I get it. Like that doesn't ever really change.
That's true. I mean, shoot. I realized, afterwards, like, my mom was not perfect and she did the best she could, for instance. I just came there, just boom, one day, like a light bulb going off, like, oh wait a minute.
For sure. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And like I said, you try to focus then, I think, on the positives. Once you kind of have that realization, you're like, okay, I get it.
And so I'm sure humor must play a huge part then in all of this.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes, I think that's such a good, like you got to have it. You got to have it or you're going to go crazy. Like you might as well laugh at yourself because your kids aren't going to they're not going to take you seriously. So you might as well just not take yourself too seriously either.
Right.
We've had so many funny things happen. I had the most crazy thing happen. I was getting like on the kids one evening, they were getting ready for bed. And I would say that maybe my oldest was like, I don't know, 11 or so. And so they were all pretty young. And they were moving like at a snail's pace. And I was in kind of a goofy mood. And so I got the spanking paddle down, but I wasn't like really like gonna spank them, but I was just like kind of messing with them, like some really friendly swats. And I was kind of teasing them and stuff. And they were trying to get the spanking paddle from me and trying to swat me, and we were just kind of playing around. And I had just gotten this label maker. It's like the electronic kind. It looks kind of like a calculator, and you type the letters on it and it prints out this really pretty label. And I was so excited about this label maker. Every organized mother, that's like their dream, right?
Right.
And so I got the spanking paddle and I thought it would be really fun if I put weapon of mass destruction on it with the label maker.
I love that.
And so I got the label maker out and I typed it all up and it printed this beautiful strip and I pasted it onto the spanking paddle. And then I looked at it and I realized that I had forgotten the M in mass. Oh, it was so funny. And nobody was there to tell because the kids were too little to understand how funny it was. But I was just laughing. I was laughing so hard.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's crazy, right? The things that happen. I remember one day I was trying to sneak out of the house because my littlest one had major mommyitis. And he was like, attached to my hip at all times. And it was a Saturday morning. My husband had just woke up. He was still in bed. And my kids were on the couch. And my littlest one was sitting with the older kids. And I thought, you know what? They're all good. And I'm going to just sneak out. And I'm going to run to the store really fast and run back. And he won't even know I'm gone. So I snuck past the couch. And I snuck over to the door that opens the garage, just the door between the kitchen and the garage. I very, very quietly turned the knob and I got in the car. And of course, I'm terrified that he's going to hear the garage door go up, right? Because that's the signal. And I do it because I have to. And I don't see anything. Nothing's happening. Everything looks okay. And I pull out into the street and I'm pulling away thinking, I did it. This is it. I succeeded. I won. And I look in the rearview mirror and he comes darting out the front door. And right behind him is my husband still in his underwear chasing him down the street.
Oh, that's funny.
Thank God. Yep. Thank God my husband's a runner.
Yeah, we like to just highlight, like our boys have had a wonderful, funny way of mispronouncing words, right?
Mm-hmm.
How little kids, they pronounce it the best way they can. Like our 10-year-old used to say it's cloudy outside.
Oh, that's cute.
Or it used to be like, when we lived in Colorado, we were like, oh, it's nosing outside. To say it's snowing outside.
Mm-hmm.
And so we do stuff like that. And or our youngest one, who's going to turn 5 soon, he loves Spider-Man, but he can't pronounce the P, so he says Cider-Man. Cider-Man, Cider-Man, and goes around singing that.
Oh, that's awesome.
So we just, we just sometimes, just for fun, out of humor, just speak like that. Just speak like, our kids either used to or still do, just to just lighten the mood.
Right, exactly. There was one time I remember we were all being real crabby and my husband said that we all had to sing everything we said to each other. Try that sometime. You cannot not laugh.
That sounds funny. So you wrote, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, I was just gonna say you're right. You gotta laugh. You gotta laugh for survival.
So even though I didn't get a chance to, even though I haven't read the book, but you have a book about all this kind of thing, don't you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's called Mom of Six Dies Laughing, and it's available on Amazon. You can also get it at my website, which is imaginemom.com/book, which it'll link you to Amazon from there as well.
So, I guess, what kind of feedback have you gotten? Obviously, we want to talk about like the negative people that just, and they don't even buy the book and they automatically rip it apart. But in other words, the feedback from moms and such that it has helped.
I think that they really like it because it's relatable. Because I try to just be as down to earth as I can, and let them know that, like, I get it. It's not gonna ever be perfect, but it could be a lot of fun. And so I put a lot of things in there to encourage fun and give people just some really practical ideas on how to deal with different things. And
Right.
also encourage them that there's just not necessarily one way, right? But it's
Right.
just all about Jesus, and from after that, do whatever works for you. But yeah, no, the feedback's been really good. I think that
Good.
it's relatable, practical, and also, I've had actually several people tell me they read it in a day.
Wow.
So I think that that's a good sign. That must mean that they enjoyed it.
Right. I think I've only ever done that with one book where it was just so sucked me in. I
Yeah,
started reading like at 4 in the morning. Could you not? And I just read the entire day till I finished it. So
yeah,
that's saying something about that book. If there are people who actually said, "Hey, I've read it in a day," because
yeah.
it's this type of book that just sucks you in a good way.
Right. I mean, I just made it like the chapters are super short, bite size, and I just threw in as many stories in as I could, And so hopefully it sounds like, that helped.
Right. So I guess what would be one what would be one idea, or I know there's a lot, but what would be one major idea that you would want to leave our audience with when it comes to this topic, parenting and kids and all that?
I think the biggest thing is just to realize that you are winning. Like, and what I mean by that is, and I would actually challenge the listeners to even just try this, is just every day write down 3 things you did that were a win. 3 things as a parent, and it could be really anything in your life because I think it applies everywhere, right?
Right.
But especially, because I guess I say this because parenting is sort of one of those things that's very hard to measure.
Right.
Like when you're working, you have feedback on that, whether you're doing it right. And parenting is more like a long-term play, right?
Right.
So you don't, and so like I like just even things like I made a meal tonight that at least half the family liked,
There you go.
or I helped my kid potty train today and he did a lot better than he did yesterday, or I taught my teenager how to drive a car and she figured out how to use reverse, or whatever,
Right.
just stuff like that. And I think that it really helps start to change your perspective and help you feel a lot more encouraged.
Yeah. I mean, I think some days for me to be like, oh, I put my kids to bed.
Yeah.
Like what you come like that should be something you do. I'm like, you have no idea what days are like sometimes. I mean, I would put down like my 4-year-old actually finished his meal, without
Yeah. Yeah.
without throwing it away and saying, "Hey, I want dessert." You're like, stuff
Yeah.
like that. People, I don't think, I think we as parents sometimes end up taking ourselves too seriously. You know,
Right. Well, and nobody's telling you good job for that, right?
right?
So sometimes you just have to remind yourself.
Yeah, I think we want to think as parenting as a sprint. And we want to see the end result now. We want to
Yeah.
see results. We want to be so result oriented that we lose sight of the big picture, right? And
Mhm.
it's a lifelong thing. I mean, sure you might agree. Might agree. You know what? My parents are parents for life.
Man, that is like, I wish somebody told me that when I had my first kid. Because you think, oh, you got 18 years and then that's it. No, you don't quit being a parent ever.
right? Like, I mean, my mom is still around. My dad has passed on, but my mom's still around, and when I talk to her, she's my mom. It's not
That's
like,
awesome. Yeah.
yeah, we're
Yeah, and
obviously
how old are you? I'm like
how
45 and I still, feel that way.
yeah, I turned 45 next here in about a week. Turned 45,
Yeah.
and my mom, still my mom.
Mhm.
She's gonna in fact, she's coming down to Corpus Christi at the end of April. And I remember I was lying in bed the other night. I couldn't sleep because I actually got excited because my mom is coming down to visit.
Wow.
So
That is so sweet. Now see, that's right. It doesn't change. You just don't realize it till they get there and you're like, "Oh, wow."
right, like
They
whatever age.
still wanna have coffee with you and, hang out with you. We just went rock climbing, like indoor rock climbing the other day with some of the kids, and yeah.
Yeah. Oh man, I used to love doing that indoor rock climbing.
Mm.
I got into it when after I got wounded in combat, and I was in a special unit for wounded soldiers. But one of the things that they did was indoor rock climbing. I never done it before in my life. Turned
Yeah.
out turned out I got a turned out I got addicted to it. Climbing up in
Oh,
not only
wow.
just the ones, but the ones where you have to kind of do that with. Where it's
Yeah, like you're
almost upside
hanging.
down. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And
That's impressive.
we used to have competitions. Like, okay, because somebody would spur me on, like, oh, can you make it up there that path? Like, well, I don't know, but I'm sure going to give it my best. So
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, that's one of the things that's nice about having older kids is you get to do that kind of stuff, right?
right, right. Yeah. So yeah, I think that's great advice for parents out there. It's like you never stop being a parent. Hey, stay connected with your kids. Always keep the door open. Or at least let them know that the door is open for them anytime they want.
Mhm.
Going out, hanging out with them, and that's yeah. Because you said you had
I have a 22-year-old.
22-year-old. That's right. That's right.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
And probably. So I was surprised you could pull that figure from her because I swear the older the kids get, it's like, how old are they now? And I'm like, hold on, let me carry the one.
I definitely can't remember how old I am. I think that's definitely a sign that I'm old.
Well, I'm so glad we got to do this, and I really feel like it's going to reach people who maybe been like they're taking themselves too seriously, or maybe flogging themselves over mistakes, or that they've made, whatever it is. It's what parents
Yeah.
do. I think it's going to help a lot of people. So I know you said it before, but just because now we're near the end. Why don't you? This is your time to promote yourself, right? Where can people reach you at? Where you at on social media? All that kind of stuff.
Perfect. Yeah. So you can reach me on Instagram at Imagine Mom. So it's like an E at the beginning instead of an I because my
Mm-hmm.
name's Elaine. So it's Imagine Mom on Instagram. Also, I have a page and a group on Facebook if you want to check that out. And I have my own podcast, which is the Imagine Momcast. So we do all kinds of great stuff for moms. Anything I can find that I feel like will release stress and bring balance or help with some kind of really practical need, we talk about it. And we also do challenges. We actually are just starting tomorrow a 21-day new habit challenge for Christian women. And we just did one in March. It was so cool. You can like pick whatever habit you want or whatever goal you want, and then we all cheer each other on. And there's a little competition, and it's fun. So there's all kinds of things like going on, and you can always check that out on my website, which is imaginemom.com.
Okay. Where can they buy your book at, by the way?
And the book is Mom of Six Dies Laughing, and you can get it on Amazon.
Okay. I'll put all those links into the show notes. So whether you're watching this by video on Facebook or YouTube, or you're listening to this on audio podcast, regardless, it's all going to be in the show notes for everybody out there. So I'll make it easy for you to find. In fact, I
Thank
just
you.
gave you a follow on Instagram as my podcast, because I'm on Instagram as as Restoring Your Voice. So you wouldn't believe how often I forget my guests are on social media and to go check them out. It happens almost every single time. So I'll have to forget that. So anyways, well,
Thank
thank you
you for
so.
that. I appreciate it.
Yeah. So thank you so much for coming on. Like I said, I think it's going to be great for people, especially people who maybe need to have some humor injected into their lives, you know? So, and
Excellent.
so with that, we'll end the show for now. So thank you all for watching. Like I said, don't forget to hit that thumbs up, hit that subscribe button if you have not. And most importantly,